Thank you. It's lovely that you guys are getting to know me. It's also slightly embarrassing. All right, we are on chapter 33 of the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. This chapter is called with Various Devotees. It is Sunday, October 26th, 1884. It was afternoon, and many devotees were present in the master's room. Among them were Manu Mohan, Mahimacharan, and M. They were joined later by Ishan and Hazra. Balaram and Rakhal were still staying at Vrindavan. The many young boys who at this time began to seek the master's company later became his intimate disciples. Latu lived with the master, and Yogan, who lived in the village, was a frequent visitor. Sri Ramakrishna's happy child of the Divine Mother, as he was, radiated a joy and peace that were reflected in the hearts of his devotees and found expression in their happy faces. They were seated on the floor and had their eyes fixed on the master, who was standing in a pensive mood, like a boy. So I love it whenever we drop in and there's just this laughing going on and this joy happening. I remember the first time that I read this book, I was amazed at how often everybody was laughing. It's almost every page you'll see it saying, and they were laughing, or everybody laughed. And it really gave me a sense that of something I've always suspected, but had not seen mirrored in my life up until that point, is that spiritual life should be the source of joy. It should be a source of great joy. Uh, you know, the tradition I grew up with created a lot of sourpusses, but didn't really create a lot of joy. And so I always thought, with all this love and all of this grace and all of this truth and freedom being thrown around, that there should be great joy. And so I was quite happy when I ran across this book and just saw that if you read it, count how many times. I counted them at one time. I think there was like 700 and something occurrences. I'll have to do it again. But where it says everyone was laughing. So there's a great deal of joy going on. And we see that Ramakrishna is the source, because he says the happy child of the Divine Mother that he was, that he radiated this kind of feeling. He radiated joy, radiated peace, and that they were reflected in the hearts of the devotees. So just by hanging around him, there was a great deal of joy and a great deal of peace that came from being around that holy person. I've experienced that around super spiritual people. They do set off an energy or an atmosphere around themselves. Swami Prabhupada, absolute rock of a human being. I mean, the most steady and stable and trustworthy, dependable human beings that you could ever have around. And I used to notice that when he would go away, every 5 years he would go to India for a couple of months usually, and I would be left alone in the monastery there in San Francisco. And I just really remember noticing how much more difficult spiritual life became when he left the building, when he went to India. That wonderful peace or stillness that used to really define the monastery there in San Francisco would abate. And I would find it was quite difficult for me to get up on time. It was difficult for me to do the practices that I was doing. And then when he would return, that atmosphere would return, and things would lighten up again, and it would be easier to go forward. And so I'm familiar with this idea that when we begin to harmonize with God, when we begin to really walk with the awareness of presence, that it becomes something that spills out of us. It fills us up inside with that great joy, that great contentment of being. But then that begins to get into the vibe, to go to a nice California vocabulary. It infects your vibe, and people pick up on it. You've got this happiness around you, this casualness, this ease of life, right? But an integrity, which can be intimidating sometimes. That the Swami I just met from Geneva was like that, young man. but boy, did he have a powerful presence to him. It was quite something. So, Master talking to Manomohan, I see Rama in all things. You are all sitting here, but I see only Rama in every one of you. Right? So this is that notion of seeing God everywhere, that is the reality, that it is God behind us who's put on a costume with our name on it and is playing our part, and our ego is the device inside this costume that makes it think that I am in this costume, right? That I am this person rather than God animating this costume, this puppet, as it were. And so Ramakrishna is saying, this is what I see. I look around the room, and yes, if after a moment I can see you as you see yourselves, but when I look before I slip into that vibe that you're living at, I see God alone everywhere. I see that's who every one of you are. I see only Rama in every one of you. Manu Mahan, yes, sir, it is Rama who has become everything. But as you say, though all water is Narayana, yet some water is fit for drinking, and some for washing hands and face, and some only for cleaning pots and pans. The Master, it is true, but I see that it is God himself who has become everything, the universe and its living beings. Presently the Master sat down on the small couch near his bed. Turning to Mahimacharan, he said, there is no question of my being truthful, but must I develop a mania for it? If I once say that I shall not eat, then it is impossible for me to eat, even if I'm hungry. And again, if I ask a particular man to take my water jug to the pine grove, he alone must carry it. If another man carries it, he will have to take it back. What a fix I am in. Is there no way out of this? Right? So Ramakrishna went through these different periods of practice in his life where he was being trained in a particular mode or a particular thing. And so right now it's truth-telling, integrity. And he's complaining because it's a pain in the patoot. If he asks a person to bring that jar, then only that person can bring the jar because that's who he asked. Remember, he tells that funny story when he's going through this period where, he he said that he would visit one of the neighbors, but didn't get around to doing it. And he realized that when he was getting ready for bed. And he was like, oh my gosh, I can't. The day can't end without me visiting. I said I was going to visit. And so what did he do? He put his shoes on and he walked all the way to his friend's house. And in India, in the villages, especially, some of the doors are just curtains in the door. They're not really a door. And he pushed the curtain aside and stuck his foot in and touched the floor with his foot, and then went back home again because he had to stay true to his word. And so he talked about these different aspects, or these different things that would happen to him, these moods or focuses that would come over him. And for periods of time, he had to really master and walk within a particular way of being. And so here he's like, is there no way out of it? He's like, I can't maintain this. This is a bit too much for me. Is there no way out? Besides, I can't carry anything with me either, neither food nor betel leaf, for that means laying up for the future. I can't carry a little clay in my hand. Right? So this tradition, or this requirement of wandering monks, they can't lay up for the future. Monastics are not supposed to have money laid up for the future because it interrupts their dependence on God. They begin to think, oh, I've got money to take care of me. Well, for a Swami, you can't have money take care of you. It's God and God alone. That's your only focus. And so this is where he's going on, and he's living in that state. And he's like, even now, I can't even pick up a little dirt and carry it with me. Right? So the Divine Mother is really, really, really training him here, really teaching him. Just then a man entered the room and told the Master that Hriday was waiting to see him in Jadu Malik's garden near the gate. The Master said to the devotees, I shall have to see Hriday. Please don't leave the room. He put on his slippers and went toward the east gate of the temple garden. M accompanied him. The road through the garden was covered with red brick dust. The manager of the temple, who was standing on the road, saluted Sri Ramakrishna. The The master passed the north entrance of the temple compound where the bearded sentries sat. On his left, he passed the kuti, the building used by the proprietors of the temple. Then he walked on down the road, which was lined on both sides with flowering trees. Passing the reservoir on his right, he went outside the temple garden. He found Hriday waiting for him near the gate of Jadu Malik's garden. At the sight of the master, Hriday, who had been standing there with folded hands, prostrated himself before him. When the master told him to get up, he rose and began to cry like a child. How strange! Tears also appeared in the master's eyes. He wiped them away with his hands. Hriday made him suffer endless agonies, and yet the master wept for him. The master, why are you here now? Hriday, weeping, I have come to see you. To whom else shall I tell my sorrows? Sri Ramakrishna smiled, said to him by the way of consolation, one cannot avoid such sorrows in the world. Pleasure and pain are inevitable in worldly life. Pointing to M, that is why they come here now and then. They get peace of mind by hearing about God. What is your trouble? Hriday, weeping, I am deprived of your company, and so I suffer. Master, why? Was it not you who said to me, you follow your ideal and let me follow mine? Hriday, yes, I did say that. But what did I know? The master, I shall say goodbye to you now. Come another day and we shall talk together. Today is Sunday and many people have come to see me. They are waiting in my room. Have you a good crop in the country? Hriday, it isn't bad. Master, let me say goodbye. Come another day. This is really quite a touching interchange, because if you're familiar with the story, you know, Hriday had been living at that temple for a long time, and yet he was rather cantankerous toward the master, often disrespectful and often argumentative, and would, you know, say inappropriate things and do inappropriate things. And finally it came to a point where he had to be asked to leave the temple. And so this is the first time that he's coming back after having been asked to leave. And so you see that his remorse, you know, and the loss of not being able to live in the master's company, right? And being faced with that. But you see also how tender the master is. Because if you read the way that Hriday, you know, taunted the master, I mean, at times it got so bad where the master considered suicide because Hriday was bothering him so much and making life so unlivable for him. And so for him to come back for the first time like this, and you just see the compassion of the master, you know, asking, how are you? Yes, I understand. Yes, this is the nature of the world. But inviting him back again, please come back again. Let's talk some more. And so that's, you know, that's that grace, right? That's just a very small touch of grace there. That even though he had been so abusive and so rude and so disrespectful and you know, and arrogant toward him, that Ramakrishna still goes out to the gate to see him, spends a few minutes talking with him, and then tells him to come back again and let's visit some more. So it's just something to see that the grace of God is not unusual for God. The grace of God is not an exception for people. It's the way God is. It's his nature. And no matter how disrespectful you've been, no matter how much stuff you've gotten away with or you think you've gotten away with, no matter how cantankerous you've been as a disciple to your beloved, it's God's nature to love, and it's God's nature to give you a fresh meeting every time he sees you. He will never bring the problems to you, right? He will always just bring himself and bring pure love with him. And so it's up to you to have faith in that pure love so that you don't have to bring up all of your faults every time you're with him. But that's the nature of egoism, you see. Master, let me say goodbye and come another day. Hriday again prostrated himself before the master, who started back to his room with M. Master to M. Oh, he tormented me so much when he served me. When my stomach trouble had reduced my body to a couple of bones and I couldn't eat anything, he said to me one day, "Look at me, how well I eat. You've just taken a fancy that you can't eat." Again he said, "You are a fool. If I weren't living with you, where would your profession of holiness be?" One day he tormented me so much that I stood on the embankment ready to give up my body by jumping into the Ganges, which was then at flood tide, and became speechless at these words of the master. For such a man he had just shed tears a few minutes before. The master to M. Well, he did serve me a great deal, right? See how what Holy Mother says? Holy Mother says that a holy man will always remember the good deeds that people do for him, will never remember the bad. He said, worldly people, it's just the opposite. You can serve them nicely your whole life, and then you make one big mistake or say one wrong thing, and it's finished. That's all they remember, right? That's what you've done. And so he's just seeing this sweetness and became speechless at these words of the master. For such a man, he had shed tears a few minutes before. Master to M. Well, he served me a great deal. Then why should he have fallen on such evil days? He took care of me like a parent bringing up a child. As for me, I would remain unconscious of the world day and night. Besides, I was ill for a long time. I was completely at his mercy. M did not know how to answer. So Sri Ramakrishna, how to answer Sri Ramakrishna. So he kept silent. Sri Ramakrishna returned to his room and he sat on the small couch. The devotees had been waiting for him eagerly. Several devotees from Konagar had arrived. One of them came forward to question the master. Devotee, sir, we hear that you go into samadhi and that you experience ecstasy. Please explain why and how you get into that mood. Master, well, Sri Radha used to experience Mahabhava. If any of her companions wanted to touch her while she was in that state, another of them would say, "Oh, please don't touch that body. It is the playground of Sri Krishna. Krishna is now sporting in her body." It is not possible to experience bhava or mahabhava without the realization of God. When a fish comes up from a great depth, you see a movement on the surface of the water. And if it is a big one, there is much splashing about. That is why a devotee laughs and weeps and dances and sings in the ecstasy of God. That's kind of a cool illustration. Illustrate the devotees like the ocean, right? And it's God, the big fish that's manifesting, coming up from behind the ego, coming up from behind the trap that it was in for all those years. And when it expresses, he says, that's why you see the devotees around here. It's why you see them laughing. You see them, dancing, being joyful, because the presence of God is rising up in them, and they're in full happiness over that, right? That's why the devotee weeps and dances and sings in the ecstasy of God. One cannot remain in bhava very long. People take a man to be crazy if he sits before a mirror and looks at his face all the time. Right? Just bhava is that deep absorption in love. It's like you're not aware of anything else, not even having a body, none of your limitations, your personality, all of that falls out of your awareness, right? Because the love, the sense of love, the sense of unity, the sense of peace is so strong that your other emotions can't express, they can't be heard. Quite an amazing space to be on. And he's saying because it's so powerful, there's so much energy of love flowing through the body. You can't hold that state very long, right? The body can't manage it for very long. One cannot remain in bhava very long. People take a man to be crazy if he sits before a mirror and looks at his face all the time. Devotee, sir, we hear that you see God. If you do, please show him to us. Master, everything depends on God's will. What can a man do? While chanting God's name, sometimes tears flow, and at other times the eyes remain dry. While meditating on God, some days I feel a great deal of inner awakening, and some days I feel nothing. A man must work. Only then can he see God. One day, in an exalted mood, I had the vision of the Haldarperkor. I saw a low-caste villager drawing water after pushing aside the green scum. Now and then he took up the water in the palm of his hand and examined it. In that vision, it was revealed to me that the water cannot be seen without pushing aside the green scum that covers it. That is to say, one cannot develop love of God or obtain his vision without work, right? Work means meditation, japa, the repeating of God's name, and the like. The chanting of God's name and glories is work too. You may also include charity, sacrifice, and so on. Right? So this pushing aside of the green scum on the water to see the water, he's making reference to our ego. We have to get our ego out of the way in order to see God, right? The reason Ramakrishna started off with walking into that room and seeing God everywhere present in everyone is because he was devoid of ego. You know, there was just barely a trace of ego holding him, just enough to have a body, just enough so that he could teach, right, and give and train everyone. But that seeing God comes only through the absence of ego, right? We have to take ego, which has kind of put the mask on everyone. It only puts the mask on ourselves, but oddly enough, we project our own state onto everyone else. And so what we think we are, we think everyone is. What we see in ourselves, we see in everyone. And that's why the way to see God in everyone is not to change everyone, but to change yourself. Reduce your ego, and you will see God in everyone, as if he's walking around with one of these party masks, you know, one of these Mardi Gras masks on, with everybody's name on it. And the fun, you know, that's when the fun begins. If you want butter, you must let the milk turn to curd. It must be left in a quiet place. When the milk becomes curd, you must work hard to churn it. Only then can you get butter from that milk, right? And this is why we're always talking about practice, right? Our spiritual practice happens between us and God. You know this, when we institutionalized religion and placed people in charge of it and put interlopers between us and God and then carried on our day life and let the people at the church live the monastic life, we really misunderstood the nature of this journey, the nature of this relationship, right? God has always been between you and her, you and he, right? Nothing else is necessary. That kingdom of the beloved lies within you. And for you to see it, it's not through an institution, it's not through a book, it's through your love of God, wanting to see that, wanting to experience it, and doing the work, right? Living a self-controlled life with discipline in it, so that you can control your mind, so that you can clear your mind, so that you can hold your mind on these very subtle truths that you need to focus on inside, you know, so that you can see the nature of your inner world and touch the kingdom of God that is in there. Recognize the kingdom of God that is in there. And so really it's a plea again, do your practice, love your practice, be dedicated to your practice. Make it the one most beautiful thing of your day, right? To sit in the presence of God and just be with him. Just be with love itself and wrap yourself in that. It should be pinnacle so that it can carry you through the day. Mahimacharan, yes, sir, that is true. Work is certainly necessary. One must labor hard. Only then does one succeed. There is so much to read. The scriptures are endless. Master to Mahimacharan, how much of the scriptures can one read? What will you get by mere reasoning? Try to realize God before anything else. Have faith in the teacher's words and work. If you have no guru, then pray to God with a longing heart. He will let you know what he is like. What will you learn of God from books? As long as you are at a distance from the marketplace, you can only hear an indistinct roar. But it is quite different when you are actually there. Then you hear and see everything distinctly. You hear people saying, "Here are your potatoes, take them, give me the money." From a distance, you hear only the rumbling noise of the ocean. Go near. You will see many boats sailing about, birds flying, waves rolling. One cannot get the true feeling about God from the study of books. You can't do it. That's not where he is. Feeling is something very different from book learning. Books, scriptures, and science appear as mere dirt and straw after the realization of God. Right? These things they'll be betrayed as material, something inert, something stagnant, something uninteresting in comparison to knowing God, in comparison to walking with the beloved. And see, this is why we have such a difficult thing around religion these days. We haven't seen the power of religion in a long time, right? We've seen the downfall. We've seen a lot of faults manifested. We've seen a lot of stuff, right? But we've forgotten that the watchword of freedom of religion is freedom. That the point of religion is realization, which is what? A direct experience of God. It's not just knowing some stuff. It's not just believing some stuff so that you can put a sticker on your forehead and be saved. It's not that. It's about becoming the person you have always wanted to be. It's about manifesting the kind of character that you never had an idea you could muster. It's being a person so beautiful that people just stop and look at you, like when Ramakrishna walks in the room. Just this is what life was meant. The quality of life was meant to be ecstatic for us. It was meant to be free for us. It was meant to be deep and abiding, overwhelmingly meaningful. And yet we struggle to find any meaning in it, right? We struggle to squeeze out the tiniest bit of love from a relationship here and there, a relative over there and another one over here. When we've got this river of love flowing within us, completely unseen, it's like in San Francisco. San Francisco has a nice big stream of creek that runs through it, but nobody's ever seen it because they paved over it. They buried it so they could put a street there. And this is what we've done with God. We've paved him over so that we can have another place to put our desires, another storage room for our collections of things, right? And so this religion, we have to dust it off. We have to rediscover it in ourselves. We have to take a chance here and see if we can break out of this boring, dry, stagnant layer of religion that we've managed to fall into, and to find this real thing, this thing that's full of authenticity, a thing that's full of integrity, a thing that's primary purpose is love and fulfillment and strength and grace, right? Oh, let's see, where is he here? The one thing needful is to be introduced to the master of the house, right? The master of the house meaning the God of the universe, right? The one needful thing is to be introduced to God, right? To see God, to know God. Why are you so anxious to know beforehand how many houses and gardens and how many government securities the master possesses? The servants of the house would not allow you even to approach these, and they would certainly not tell you about their master's investments. Therefore, somehow or other, become acquainted with the master, even if you have to jump over the fence or take a few pushes from the servants. Then the master himself will tell you all about his houses and his gardens and his government securities. And what is more, the servants and the doorkeeper will salute you when you are known to the master. Right? So he's basically saying, go to God. Stop going to libraries and churches and institutions for God. You are in the biggest and most beautiful temple. Look at this temple outside that window. When I was doing those vlogs, and they are coming back at some point, but when I was doing those vlogs, that was the whole point. The nature before and after was always to give us the idea that we're walking into the temple that the divine built for itself, right? That this out there is the temple that Mother made to be worshipped in, that God designed to be worshipped in, right? And so we need to take back that breadth of religion that is everywhere present, that life itself is the scripture. We don't have to go to different little houses decorated after different cultures of different time periods and pick up our various books, and bore ourselves to tears reading about God. Spend your time in your own life. Spend your own time in your own privacy. Come to know God. And when you touch God and then you go to a church, like he says here, they're going to be bowing down to you because they will recognize that energy, recognize that love that pours out of you, recognize that kindness, how you're not easily angered. You're patient with everyone, right? And nurturing. The devotee. Well, now the question is how to become acquainted with the master. Laughter. Master, that is why I say the work is necessary. It will not do to say that God exists and then idle away your time. You must reach God somehow or another. You see, we just that thing, just however you can do it. Be crazy about it. Be constantly thinking about it. Be tenacious. Call on him in solitude. Pray to him. Oh God, reveal yourself to me. Weep for him with a longing heart. You roam about in search of lust and greed like a madman. Now be a little mad for God. Let people say, this man has lost his head for God. Why not renounce everything for a few days and call on God in solitude? Right? What? Do something. Do something. What will you achieve by simply saying that God exists and doing nothing about it? There are big fish in the Haldar Pukur. That's the pond near his house. But you can catch them by merely sitting. Can you catch them by merely sitting idly on the bank? No. Prepare some spiced bait. Throw it into the lake. Then the fish will come from the deep water and you will see the ripples. That will make you happy. Perhaps the fish will jump with a splash and you will get a glimpse of it. Then you will be so glad. What is he telling you here? He's like, look, it's not just the catching of the fish that's going to bring you ecstasy. It's not just your realization that you're doing all of this for. He says, just go and prepare the spice bait and throw it in, and you'll see the fish begin to move, and you're going to be so happy when you see that. Then they're going to start jumping. You're actually going to catch a glimpse of them, right, before you've caught them. And he says, and you're going to catch a glimpse of it, and then you're going to be so glad. He's telling you the process itself is joyful, right? Sitting in your meditation and just being faintly aware of the scent of love that is within you for the first time. You're going to be so glad, to just that little tiny thing, the first time that you have that thrill run through your body, at the thought of God, or the first time where the master appears, your chosen ideal appears in the mind's eye very clearly for you for the first time. You'll be ecstatic. You'll be so so overwhelmed, like, oh my God, this is real. The first time you learn something from your own thought, right? As you're talking with Mother in your own mind, you're like, whoa, 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 whoa. What happened there just now? Right? You'll be so glad. You'll be so happy. You'll have so much joy if you're doing your practice in the right way. You'll find this bliss, right? That will make you happy. Perhaps a fish will jump with a splash and you'll get a glimpse of it. Then you'll be so glad. Milk must be turned to curd and the curd must be churned, right? There's a process to this and we have to go through it. Only then will you get butter. To Mahima. What a nuisance. Someone must show God to a man while he himself sits idly by all the while. Someone must extract the butter and hold it in front of his mouth. Everyone laughs. What a bother. Someone else must catch the fish and give it to him. You see, here the guru is complaining about us, kids. The guru is saying, look, what, I have to walk out there and catch the fish and bring it out and put it right in front of your face and shove it into your mouth? It's like, I give people mantras. I heard some senior swamis in a car ride that I was on one time, lamenting how they had given their mantra out to thousands of devotees, but they said almost none of them are repeating it. Almost none of them are doing anything with it at all. If this is the case for us, oof, what a waste. What a beautiful thing we've let go. A man wanted to see the king. The king lived in the inner court of the palace and beyond the 7 gates. No sooner did the man pass the first gate than he exclaimed, "Oh, where is the king?" But there were 7 gates, and he must pass them one after another before he could see the king. Right? So what the funny thing he's alluding to here, especially Westerners, Westerners, we're kind of goofy in this way, right? Because we're so devoid of religion and have been for so many years. It's like when we get the slightest experience, you sit down in the first weeks of your religion. Like I remember me, a monastery for less than 6 months telling Swami I wanted to write a book. I read that first book on Advaita Vedanta. It rocked my world, man. My life was changed, and I was like, oh my God, we have to get this out. Everybody has to know about this, right? There's a time when Mathur Babu had his first experience of ecstasy, first experience of God vision. And, he's running around making all kinds of noise. He's saying, we should build a temple. We'll build a temple. Let's put a big temple over. We have to do this. And, and just all this stuff. And the master was like, will you just sit down? It's like, will you chill out? Right? This is the way it is when we're young in spiritual life. We get we get just a glimpse of the reality, just a touch of the mood and spirit of God within us. And all suddenly we're gurus, right? Suddenly we're like, oh, let me go be a teacher. Oh, let me go start a new thing, right? I'm the worst example of this. If you guys want to see an idiot who's learned a little thing or two, just look at what I've done with my life, running around like crazy, talking about these things all the time, because I'm flipped out by them. I think they're blowing my socks off even now. But this is nothing. I'm an idiot, a tantalized idiot. I have, imagine when we come to know God, imagine when we actually touch the beloved, right? Just imagine at that point, if we're, how amazing this is going to be. Right. No sooner did the man pass the first gate than he exclaimed, "Oh, where is the king?" But there were 7 gates, and he must pass before them before he can see the king. Mahimacharan, by what kind of work can one realize God? Master, it is not that God can be realized by this work and not by that work. The vision of God depends on his grace. All right, so this Thakur, Ma, Swamiji, they're always reminding us of this when we're thinking about our practice, when we're thinking about what we need to do and how we need to work on it. He'll give them instructions because, yes, there are things you can do that are helpful in that will move you toward the light, but they are not the light itself, right? God is the point of all of this. Not to know about him, not to have a list of facts, not to know where he lives, what his address is, what his electric bill is, to know God as a friend, as your very own, and to find out that he lives within you is the highest of our joys possible, right? So the vision of God depends on his grace. Still, a man must work a little with longing for God in his heart. If he has longing, he will receive the grace of God. There's a promise for you right there. You should highlight that one, right? If you have longing for God, if you desire God, he will receive the grace of God. Okay? There it is. If you want God, you will receive his grace. He will come to you. To attain God, a man must have certain favorable conditions. One, the company of holy people, right? We have to surround ourselves with people who are practicing the good habits, who are disciplining their minds, who are, trying to keep their mind contained so they're not running out to the senses all the time, right? So we should uh, not not be running out to have fun all the time. And it's not that fun is wrong, but that fun is nothing compared to what you're going to find within yourself, within spiritual life. And until you're willing to close that noise down a little bit, you're not going to find the better thing, right? And so it's not a downer on enjoyment, right? The Master Vivekananda says that God did not come to take away the joy of the world. He said he came to show you how to enjoy it, how to enjoy the world, so that you don't get stuck in it, right? So that's what he's teaching. How to enjoy this world without getting caught. And how do you know how if you're caught? If you can't say no to yourself, then you know you're caught. If you can't be content just eating at home, having a quiet life, then you're caught. If you're being driven to go out and do things, go out and stay busy, go out and do things that are taking your mind off of your inner peace, then you're caught, right? You're being a slave to something outside of yourself, right? Because a sadhu, a person who's touched the divine, can sit anywhere and be completely contented to die there. Nothing need change. So one, we must have the company of holy people. Keep good friends around you. If people are not healthy for you, if they're not good for your habits, then for a while, you're going to have to separate yourself from them. It's not the ideal. As holy people, we want to be able to be with anybody and to lift them up and encourage them and love them. And that will come in time. Like the master says, in the beginning, when a tree is just beginning to grow, you have to put a fence around it. Otherwise, the animals will trample it and it will not mature. But if you put a fence around it and protect it for a while, then when you take the fence away, you'll be able to tie an elephant to that tree and it won't be able to do a thing to it, right? And so this is how we run our life. Yes, for a time, we're going to have to do that unpleasant thing of not hanging out with some people, not going to some places with some people, not going to some activities with some people, right? But those are temporary things. Those are meant to be the little fence that's around us in the beginning. In the end, we can go to all of those places and we'll be strong enough in our love and strong enough in our experience of God not to be fooled by them, not to be pulled into them, right? In that sense, we can be like the master going to the theater and going into ecstasy when he sees the play. When he hears the audience clap, he only sees God. He sees the mood of God everywhere. Right? So this is where we're moving towards. So the first thing we need is to have those holy people surrounding us. The second one, discrimination, discernment, right? Discerning between what is real and what is unreal. That which is unchanging alone is real. All that changes is unreal, right? And so we are constantly discerning within ourselves to stay established within that part of us that has never changed. You have to find it first, right? It's in the shrine of the heart, that identity of self that has been able to identify, my body used to have no hair on it at all. I was a fat little wiggly thing that could fit in my father's hand, and that was me. And now the ravages of time have danced all over this body. My hair's graying, right, and falling out. I got lines everywhere, funny little things showing up, threatening to become independent of me. And what do? Well, we haven't even changed our name. I still am I, right? I still am I. Why? Because I know intuitively of an unchanging part of me that has been there all of this time. And that unchanging part of me is the kingdom of God. It is the divine. And so that's what he's saying here. So we got to keep holy people around us, and we've got to be constantly discerning, constantly placing ourselves back on that part of us which is silent, back on that part of us which is steady, always the same. And as we do that, and keep bringing it back and keep bringing it back and keep bringing it back, soon the ego begins to narrow, begins to thin, and we start to catch glimpses of something bigger, something beyond it. Right? We touch something beautiful, and then, boy, then it's over. Then it's over for you, I'm afraid. You'll never return to being a normal person again. All right, so holy company, discernment constantly going on, right? The third one, the blessings of a real teacher, right? So the blessings of an enlightened guru, right? And so all of us have that, but for us it takes a little bit of faith. You can get an enlightened guru. There are enlightened folks out there. Finding them is a challenge. That'll take a lot of prayer and a lot of faith and a lot of searching, but they can be had. But also, if you understand the nature of a guru, we understand that all of these human faces are just faces, and that God, Ramakrishna, or your highest ideal of God, whether it's a Jesus or a Buddha or a Rama, that face of God is working through your guru. And so with faith in your guru, it can be the same as if you had an enlightened guru, because in fact you understand that your guru is the divine, right? Is the one teacher working through that face with you. And also earlier, just on the other page here, he says, if you don't have a guru, he didn't tell you, oh, immediately go get one. He said, just keep going. Let's see if we can find that place. If you have no guru, then pray to God with a longing heart. He will let you know what he is like, right? So you go directly to God. If you don't have a guru, if that's not happening in your life, or you're not ready for that or don't want that, he's saying, don't let anything stop you. If you don't have a guru, just go directly to God and pray with your longing heart. Beg him, show yourself to me. You've made me. I'm your very own. Why have you tolerated this separation for so long from me? Why have you let me be alone so long and to suffer so much and to do such stupid things with my life, right? So go to God and wake up that love, right? Why do this to yourself? So the blessings of a real teacher, those are the favorable conditions. A good teacher, a discerning heart, and holy company. All right. Perhaps his elder brother takes the responsibility for the family. Perhaps his wife has spiritual qualities and is very virtuous. Perhaps he's not married at all or entangled in worldly life. He succeeds when conditions like these are fulfilled, right? When we get that holy company, when we get that teacher, when we get that discernment, then we're on our way. That means we have started on the path. He goes on, in a certain family, a man lay seriously ill. He was at the point of death. Oh my. Someone said, here is a remedy. First, it must rain when the star Swati is in the ascendant, and then some of that rainwater must collect in a human skull, and then a frog must come there, and a snake must chase it, and as the frog is about to be bitten by the snake, it must jump away, and the poison of the snake must drop into the skull. You must prepare a medicine from this poison and give it to the patient. Then he will live. Okay. We are actually going to stop here because it's time for the class to start, and this is a very fun teaching, and I really want to have time to just kind of laugh and play with it because it's a wonderful way of making the point. He's saying here that this you saw how impossible that this little recipe is. I mean, for all of that stuff to happen, each one of them would be a miracle, and there's 5 or 6 of those miracles in a row that has to happen right
Hmm.
there, right?
It's
And
wonderful.
so this actually happens. I mean, we're going to read that it actually happens, but the fun of it is that it kind of shows you it's like, yes, you have to do the work. Your work is to go get that skull, go set it on the ground, go find a frog, get it around the snake, get the snake to chase it, get the frog to jump over the skull, get the snake to strike, miss the frog, and then get its fangs caught on the edge of the skull and to get its poison in the skull, right? So that is us doing our part. But you can see so clearly how it's grace that gets us there, right? So this is a wonderful, 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 wonderful lesson that shows how grace and works actually work together. How your works, you cannot possibly bring your works together for these things to happen without the presence of God and the grace of God to bring all of that about and to make all of that craziness happen so that you can get this, fever mixture to cure your friend like that. And so we'll pick up with that next week.